Hey everybody, welcome back to Out of the Ordinary with Jay, and I'm with
Luhan.
We are going to have a very interesting conversation today, but I always like to get context before we get started. So could you mind telling us your age?
77.
77, and where are you from?
North side of Chicago.
Okay, north side of Chicago. So our topic today is one I never thought I would be discussing, but I am super excited to be discussing it. And we're going to talk about what Luhan calls real magic. And so, do you want to just take it from there, and then we'll kind of go?
Sure.
Okay.
Our culture has certain things they think are real and not real. Go back a couple dozen years, and they thought gay people had a mental illness. And even in the scientific journals, it was referred to that way, until our culture decided, no, they're actually okay. Then the science changed. So we're not really living in a science age. We're living in a cultural age. And a lot of things that science actually has no opinion on, telepathy, premonitions, telekinesis, or whatever, science actually doesn't have anything on it. But our culture says it doesn't exist. There's this whole other area where we've been sold, I feel, a bill of goods, and I'll give you my reasons why.
Okay, just so I want to make sure I have this right. I'm getting this right for clarification. In the same way that, I don't know if I'm going to get this right. Basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, is you're saying things like telekinesis, teleportation, magic spells, etc., can be real, but science has just not have anything to do with them thus far.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you have, I believe you had told me that you had some experience with witchcraft.
Okay, well, let me start.
Or do you want to go somewhere else?
Let me start from, I was like 10 years old.
10 years old, okay, let's go there.
I've been sent to my room and told to clean up my room and make my bed, and I'm pissy about it.
If you cast a spell and your room was clean, this conversation ends right now.
No, that's not how it started.
Oh, okay.
It started with a cup with dice in it.
Okay.
And my uncle made it, and it was a leather cup, so it was very opaque, and dice in it. And they used to play, games with it, because you have to roll them out of the cup.
Kind of like Yahtzee.
Yeah, you can't control them, you roll them out of the cup. So I had an idea.
Wait, real quick. So it was like Yahtzee, the cup with, instead of 5 dice, it had like 18 dice?
Well, I put 3 in to start. There were a bunch of dice.
Okay, fine.
So here's what happens. I decided to make a bet. Now, I don't know who the bet was with, because I wasn't particularly religious, but I was just making a bet. I says, I tell you what, to nobody in particular, if I roll 3 threes, I'll clean up my room. So I would shake it up, and I roll it out. It's 3 threes. Now, there's only one way to make 3 threes out of 3 dice. It's not like 1, 2, 3, you could have 2, 1, 3. There's only one way. It's 1 out of 6 cubed. So 6 times 6 times 6. Anyway, so I decided, shit, I'll tell you what, I put 4 dice in. Okay. Now, I don't remember what the bet was on the 4 dice, but it was something bigger than that. I'll tell you what, let's double or nothing.
You didn't want to clean your room still.
Yeah. Okay. Shake. If I get 4 fours, then I'll do this other stuff in addition to cleaning my room. Throw it out. Well, 4 fours. And I'm looking at this. Now, okay,
That's a freaking...
I finally decided to go the limit. I'll quit fighting with my brother Steve. That's the biggest thing I could give up. I put 5 dice in the cup. Shake. You gotta know 5 fucking 5s.
3 threes, then 4 fours, then 5 fives.
Now, at that age, I did know something about laws of probability, and I knew that was a really big number.
Pretty low probability.
Okay, so I put all the dice in a cup, and I'm kind of distracted. And as I walked away, I passed this table in the hall, and I just threw the dice out. 6 sixes. The chances of rolling 3 threes, 4 fours, 5 fives, and 6 sixes as a sequence, because that's how it counts mathematically.
1 in a trillion, zillion?
101 trillion to 1.
Yeah, I can't believe it's that high.
No, it's 1 out of 6 to the 18th power.
I mean, that is...
Because you add exponents. So, okay, that should never have ever happened if everybody in the universe was rolling dice all the time.
And you were 10 years old.
And I'm very science-minded and
Already a 10.
logic-minded, but I did know math. And I knew, so it wasn't years later when I actually worked out the number, but that was the first one I remember.
Well, real quick, what did you think about that after it happened with the sixes?
I think I just I'm a kid. I went and did something else.
Because honestly, like if that happened to me, even I think at like 10 years old, I would think I had superpowers,
Okay.
or there's something divine, or now I would think.
You have to understand, these were all I lost.
No, I understand. Yeah, maybe you're not a very good, superpower,
I know.
But I just,
I know.
or I would think now, I would think like, oh, things like, simulation theory or the solipsism,
Well,
everything, something.
I thought, and later when I thought about this, it applies to other
wild.
things. In other words, if all the laws of the physics and the universe I know about cannot explain it, there's one thing that any scientist would do in that situation and say there's another factor in here. It's the reason when the orbit of one of the planets wasn't where it was supposed to be, they thought, well, by all the laws of astrodynamics should be here, but it's over here. And there was another planet out there pulling on it. Okay, high school, math class, we're going to learn about probability. Okay, now each of you will turn around and form pairs, and you're going to take a penny, and you're going to each flip it 20 times. One flips, the other counts. So this guy, Frank, sat in front of me. So he flipped it, and I counted his, and then I flipped it, and he counted. Now, the rule was if it fell off the desk, you'd flip it over. But, I mean, this is going boing, up in the air and bang, bang, bang on the desk. I got 18 heads out of 20. Now,
18 heads out of 20.
20. When the teacher, who's watched all of this going on, he's watching us all do this, no funny business, he's adding them up. And when Frank told him that I flipped 18 out of 20, I remember his chalk didn't want to connect with the board anymore. He didn't want to add mine in. It would throw off the whole theory of probability. I mean, I would have thrown the whole class off. It's about 1,000,000 to 1.
What's super interesting about probability, and this is where gamblers get it wrong all the time, especially at the roulette table. But what's interesting about probability is, the probability of having the penny hit heads 18 out of 20 times is highly improbable.
Yeah.
But the 19th time you're flipping it, it's 50-50.
Yeah, it's always 50-50.
It's always 50-50. But it's the cumulative effect.
That's right.
That's the issue. But but like people will go by the roulette table, right? And they'll be like, oh, it hit, whatever, 14 twice in a row. It's definitely not going to hit 14 again. But it's the same odds as it was last time. You know what I mean? But if you were looking at it in the past, say, in the beginning before anything started, what are the chances it would hit 3 times in a row? That's a low probability.
That's right.
And so probability gets very tricky.
Oh, yeah, and I think people are fooled by the lottery. All I got to get is 6 numbers, and I think the numbers go up to 54.
Yeah.
Well, they don't realize how long those odds are. They think, oh, it's not.
Well, and when they interjected the Powerball, they threw the odds completely berserk. That made it anyways, about 1,000,000 times harder.
Okay.
Or more 1,000,000,000 times harder.
There's the first 2. Let me throw
let's hear these. These are other. What would we classify? Is it weird coincidences?
Now that's the thing.
How would you classify it?
You got to understand, we've absorbed from our culture certain beliefs which we don't question.
Oh, I see.
And when something happens outside of those, we only have 2 options. Do we disregard what we saw, or do we change our belief? And it's a really tough choice.
Or you could add in the third option, which is chalk it up to a weird coincidence or a haphazard thing. But
see, coincidence is never a sure thing. What coincidence says, there's no connection between A and B. But to prove that, you'd have to prove a negative. Prove that no connection exists.
Yeah.
So often what people will do in this case is, even if it's 1,000,000,000 to 1, they'd say, oh, it's just a coincidence. I can ignore it,
Yeah, no, I got you.
Let me tell you about
I
moved to Santa Barbara. I got the studio apartment. Now in the evening, I like to take a little walk around that part of town. Okay. One night I'm out for a walk.
Yeah.
Now, let me separate out the conjecture from the facts in this.
Okay.
A fact. Within a week or 2 before that, I had signed up with the Rosicrucians, online thing. Every week they send you this little thing to do these exercises.
Okay.
Okay, that's a fact.
Okay.
While I was taking this walk, I had this one night incredible feeling that's never happened before or since. And this feeling I can best describe as completeness. If there's an opposite to neediness, It's this absolutely no neediness at all, this polar opposite. Now, that's a fact that I had that feeling, and it hasn't happened before or since.
Okay.
Now, whether I conjecture that that was caused by the Rosicrucians through some magical ritual they were trying to give me a boost, that's conjecture.
Right.
Okay. Now, so I'm to finish my walk. I go back to my apartment, and I go in, and I don't think I've just hard closed the door, and the phone rings. Okay, I go answer the phone. This is a studio apartment. It's small.
Right.
And it's right by the window, and I'm looking out the window, and the phone rings. It's a guy I work with.
Okay.
And we hardly talk outside of work, but it was reasonable. He might call me. Okay. We talk for 10 minutes or so, and I hang up the phone. The phone rings. Now it's somebody from my past 10, 15, 20 years ago who just happened to want to talk to me for no apparent reason. Okay, when we talk, and I don't know what we talked about since there was no reason to talk other than he just thought he wanted
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. I hung it up and the phone rings. 5 more calls until 11 o'clock at night. Every time I hung up, the phone rang. Now I'm thinking, and that's just the people who could find my present phone number. And the average time was, let's say, 15 years. Well, how many evenings are there in 15 years? There's about 5,000. So the chances of having 5 calls are 5,000 to the 5th power, which is some number of quadrillions. However, I went to bed. The next morning, I got up. Guess what happened? The phone rang. Hi, I was trying to call you all last night, but your phone was 2 calls the next morning. So we're in the quintillions now to 1.
So what do you chalk that up to? What is that?
Because if our current physics and science can't explain something, that means something outside of that is causing the effect. And that to me is some mental contact between us. We're tied into each other. People we know are at some connection, even though distance and time between, and they could sense what I was feeling, and they wanted to talk to me.
Is that similar to that old thing that I saw something on TV or whatever years ago where, the daughter burns her hand on the stove and, 800 miles away, the mom's hand hurts and then calls her?
Now, what happens?
Is that the same?
Yes, it is. Okay. And see, when this happens to people, if they themselves even believe it, their friends will, oh no, you're making that up. That's just a coincidence. Well, sometimes it is, because they've totally ruled out that there can be any mind-to-mind communication going on. But as far as I'm concerned, that mind-to-mind communication exists.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah.
I'll tell you one more, the Hare Krishnas.
Okay.
I'm back in Urbana after I'm out of the Army, and the Hare Krishnas are playing on the back porch of the Student Union building.
Okay.
And a crowd has gathered, 100 or so people. And I'm walking in from the side, and so there's Hare Krishnas on the porch. There's about 20, 25 feet of sidewalk, and then the lawn.
Yeah. And
people have gathered. But I noticed they're standing in a perfect semicircle that starts in the sidewalk down here, goes to the lawn and back to the sidewalk. And their shoes look like they're lined up to within an inch on that semicircle. And this is just a crowd of people. How do you get a crowd of people?
The symmetry was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So I got through and I decided to work my way through the crowd, got in back of the crowd and found my way through. Finally, I saw an opening to the front. And I'm looking down and there's all these shoes in a line. Now, what's a fact is those shoes were lined up. Anything else I say is a bit more my own conjecture. But those shoes lining up is a fact, which statistically is like as near to impossible as you can get. Now, I get up to the front, and it's like a line. Something doesn't want to cross this line. And I stick my hand out, and I can feel something. It's like I go through this barrier, and my hand is sensing some kind of warm energy, very pleasant.
Wow.
And the line, and I go, oh shit. And then I thought, what happens if I step across the line? So I think, and I'm this person that, like I say, I face my own demise more than once. I said, I'm going to go for this. So I stepped across it, and it went through my whole body. And then I was looking at these Hare Krishna guys, and they're all in this ecstatic state. I can see their faces. I've now entered that realm, that bubble of some energy. They're done with all of their chanting and everything. And then I finally stepped back out of it, you know.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, they were a party to the Hare Krishnas that were doing the singing.
Yeah.
Were a party to creating, or at least a party to this bubble of an environment that could not be seen.
Yes.
But you could cross the barrier and know it, and
Yeah.
get back out of it and know it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but these people, their shoes wouldn't cross the line.
So that's why they were all in a line.
That line, and it was a perfect semicircle.
Oh wow, that's wild.
So, you know, in physics, there's something called the inverse square law. As you get twice as far away, you get 1/4 the energy. Well, this didn't obey the inverse square law. It doesn't obey the rest of physics. Why obey the? Because it was like an actual barrier, an actual
Wow.
To the inch, you know.
Now, so what are you describing all these as? Real magic then? Is this what
Yeah.
you mean as real magic?
Well,
That
yeah,
you know
what
that other people might call
yeah.
something else?
Now, I've actually done actual ritual magic, but it like broke my relationship with what I was. Hard science guy. I knew science. I mean, I fought the school about it, where my
Yeah.
teachers said I was bad for being an atheist, but I like science, you know.
Right. So science was your
But
starting point.
Science was, all I knew about science was inadequate to describe these experiences.
And because there were multiples of them, didn't you also describe another one, something about sensing a dark shape? Wasn't there
Oh
another
yeah, there was that one.
Let's describe that one.
Oh
so we have
well,
a full
I'm in Santa
context.
Barbara, and there's an area called Goleta, unincorporated area, up Highway 101,
Okay.
10 miles up the road. As I'm leaving my house to get in my car, I got to go there, and there's a certain exit I always take. Well, this exit has got a painted line, you know, where it curves out for the exit. Only there's a whole lot of concrete, a whole 2 lanes to the right of that. So people, if they're driving normally, just cut across that. Who cares? Because why go around that curve? Because you just, you know, there's plenty of pavement there. There's nobody else there. But I had this image in my mind of this giant animal, dark, vicious, dangerous, lurking up there somewhere at that intersection. So I get in my car and I'm driving up there, and I'm about to take my usual thing, just cut across. There was a car broken down, no lights on, in that spot. If I had gone the normal way, I would have crashed right into it.
Wow.
And but I was watching for it, because this is
Yes, so you thought there was
now,
some monster there.
there could be some very strange explanation to try to fit this into our reality.
This is what I wanted to ask you is, what is your own explanation to this? And let me ask it this way. Is it that there's just real magic, or is it there's phenomena that's unexplained by science that maybe science will explain? Or is it more of like just our reality is not what we think it is, like we're in a simulation, or we're like, you know, where it's like the solid system thing where, you know, we project our own reality and that's the only reality, there's nobody else. Like, where do you fall?
Okay.
What is your explanation for this?
Okay, what I do is I try to stay within the realm of reason. See, to me, science isn't what defines my reality, but reason is. And all I can reasonably say from all these experiences, there's an outside force acting on this that's not understood by our current science. That's really all I know for sure. Not what it is, how it works, where it came from, what it thinks.
And did this outside source, since this is already in conflict with your science background, did this outside source ever make you rethink, like, well, maybe there is a God?
Oh, sure. I'm fine. There could be.
I mean, did it do that to you?
Well, because
or did you not really? You were
because I no longer had science as my envelope for reality.
Right. It didn't make sense.
So now anything outside that might be possible.
Wow.
But I'm trying to separate things I can actually substantiate, even though it's my own personal experience, from conjecture. Now, I've reason to think from some of these experiences that it's not a mechanical force, but an intelligent force.
Well, the way that you describe this makes me think, in my mind, I was just thinking, well, let's say you're not the only one, Luhan's not the only one who has experienced these sort of things, and other people have. Then it sort of makes religions seem pretty like appropriate.
Well,
in other words, like, you know, hey, there's this phenomena. I can't explain it through science or math or anything else. Maybe I'll go to the divine.
And my attitude toward that is I do not disregard anything. Although I believe that a lot of people's experiences of that is since they don't even understand science, they can't possibly know that this is outside of it because they have no concept.
So did it move you from originally being religious, then to atheism, then to agnosticism? Is that
Then
what
to,
or,
I would say, spirituality.
okay.
And then I had different kinds of experiences doing like rituals and things that had actual real effects on things.
Yeah, let's hear about this ritual magic, something with your grandfather's cat.
Oh, yeah.
What about that?
Santa Barbara, there's 2 houses in front, a driveway.
By the way, I'm not sure if this is actually an endorsement or non-endorsement for Santa Barbara.
Okay. That's where I was living at the time.
Maybe you're doing great advertising for them. Maybe you're not. I don't know.
Well, that's where I lived for 20 years.
Okay, anyway, so ritual magic, grandfather's cat. Go ahead.
Okay. I live in one of the 2 houses. There's this driveway goes to a parking lot out back and all these cottages.
Okay.
One of my neighbors knocks on my door. Are you the manager? Because I lived in the front house. Oh, no. What's the problem? Well, I've locked myself out. Do you think you can tell me? I says, look, I pick locks. Okay. Show me where it is. So I go to this house. These are all very old cottages with very old locks. Old locks are much easier to pick than new ones because they're worn and it's easy. So I tried picking the front. Oh, no. Okay, I'll get the back lock. I tried the front lock again. We could see these keys hanging in there. I said, shit, do you have a roommate? Yeah. Did she put a hex on this or something? And the guy went like this. Like his eyes went wide because she was a practitioner of ritual magic. Now, I'm not saying she put a hex on. She could have. She put a protection ritual on the house. At a time, she's walking up the driveway, and I meet this lady, and I start talking to her. She wants to teach me ritual magic. She's been studying it since she was like 10, 11 years old. She's got a wall full of books on practices.
And at this point, do you believe in ritual magic? Do you not believe in it? Are you just open to it, or you're just like, this girl's cute, so I'll let her do whatever she wants to do? Like,
she wasn't exactly cute, but I was curious. Okay. I was trying all kinds of things.
Okay.
And so we go in my house because I have the big space, and with the 2 of us, she was showing me books on ritual magic, Aleister Crowley, and I noticed I looked up at the screen, window screen, and 2 tiny kittens were holding onto it. And okay. And then another time I was just reading one of the books on my porch swing, and one of the neighbor's cats, these 2 gay guys had this Persian cat named Busha, and it kind of avoided people, but it jumped up on the swing, jumped up on me, and had its paws over the front of the book while I was reading it.
No way.
Okay.
Wow.
So apparently what we think of as just a mythos or something about cats and magic.
Well, not the Egyptians.
Oh, I think there's something to it. Okay, this is years later, or months later. I'm no longer practicing with this lady. I'm moving out of Santa Barbara. I'm visiting my grandfather, who lives in Camarillo. We see each other a couple times a year because we're close enough to go for holidays. I think it was Thanksgiving. The other guests had left, some friends of him and his wives, and I was there by myself in their kitchen.
Okay.
Now they got this cat, and I've only seen it once because it never comes out when anybody's in the house but them.
Okay.
It's this big white furry cat that hides under their bed or something.
Yeah.
So my grandfather's asking what I'm doing, and I started talking about this lady teaching me ritual magic. Within a minute, this cat walks into the kitchen, jumps up on my lap, and starts purring. My grandfather is flabbergasted. That cat, just talking about it, created an energy that attracted the cat. Wow. So the cat did jump in my lap. Yes, my grandfather had never seen it jump in anybody's lap.
Wow.
There's a certain
completely out of character for the cat.
Out of character for the cat. So there's a thing about cats and magic. And see, a lot of people think a lot of our mythos may be just made up crapola. Okay. But our culture has told us that none of it's real. It used to tell us that acupuncture wasn't real. Acupuncture is totally substantiated at this time.
I think you have to be a certain type of individual to be like open to things like that too. Because like as an example, I can just tell you right now, if a girl told me whatever, she told me, hey, you want to learn ritual magic? Like she'd have to be so hot. Oh. Or I'd be like, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. Go have fun with your cat. You know what I mean? Like, it would just freak me out. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just telling you my own person. I'd been I'm like, whoa,
No,
I'm out of here.
I gotta.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to say anything in case this lady ever sees this video, but
No, I got you. It wasn't that.
She wasn't a hottie.
I understand.
I just was interested in
I got
pursuing
you.
it.
Yeah. So
And-
do you believe in hexes
Well,
or magic?
it's not about that.
Okay, what's it about?
So she says, I don't have room in my place. You have an empty bedroom here. Can we set up and do an actual ritual invocation? Okay. An invocation means taking this spirit entity, in this case it was Venus, out of the Greek mythos, and inviting it to join us. So all she said is, you just have to stand inside this circle, and you had to wear a black robe. So we'd make it out of some cloth from, just cut a hole, take your tip.
You have had a way more interesting life than I have.
So one thing I was very careful of, I wasn't going to ingest anything. Now, we had a setup. The altar is called a double cube to the height of the magician's navel.
Okay.
So it's one cube, and then it's all black. And on top of that, you put the things that will invoke that deity. In this case, Venus is like green, like certain kind of flowers, like a certain kind of incense, because you're enticing this deity. So we got all of that, and I'm standing there. And then she's got this dagger, and she's going around the circle in Latin and something called Enochian, which is only used for ritual magic. It has angelic names and things. And this is going on, and I'm looking, waiting for something to happen.
I'm not even there, but I'm scared hearing your story.
I know. Oh, I got scarier stories than this. So I'm looking around. I don't know what time went by, 5-10 minutes. And then I see it's not out there. It's in here. It starts coming into my mind. It's like, when people channel, like they go bye-bye and this entity comes in and talks.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't like that because I was still there. It was literally like feeling crunched down to a little area in myself, in my mind, while this big thing came in and occupied the rest of it. And I almost passed out cold. I started doing pranayama, which is a breathing exercise I learned to
What's it called?
Pranayama.
Oh.
It's just to calm my nervous system because I was going to pass out on the floor at this point. And she was scowling, looking at me. She didn't know how much this hit me. See, when you invoke a deity, it's called getting a piece of it, because if the whole thing came in, you just drop dead physically, your body. So she didn't know how big a piece she had carved out for me. But she finally closed out the ceremony and says, walk around your house now and take a look at it. It was fucking gorgeous. It looks like the poshest, expensive hotel lobby you'd ever seen. And it's all my crappy old furniture. And I can't describe how beautiful it looked, because that's what Venus does to your perceptions.
Okay, so this begs the question from my perspective, which I have to ask is, okay, we talked about, you grew up religious, then atheist, then sort of agnostic, spiritual. In that moment, wouldn't you have to either think of things in terms of like, okay, I believe in ritual witchcraft because it just happened, you had the experience, or because it was Venus related, wouldn't you have to be like pagan and believe in the Greek gods and the Roman gods?
No, it was just to me, okay, she
like,
did that.
I'm asking you, how do you explain that phenomena?
Well, I just told myself I had a really cool experience, because other than LSD, nothing was as powerful as that experience. Then she says, for the next couple of days, when anyone even walks near your house, their face is going to light up. And I kept an eye out the window because we had this walkway goes to the other cottages. And as soon as they get to my place, they're all smiley, and then they revert back. She says, there's now an aura around your house.
You witnessed this also?
Yes.
So how do you explain this? How do you explain that? Because that's not even in your own mind now. That's outside.
Yeah.
So how do you explain all of this phenomena?
That there's a certain reality to these things. Like I say, our culture is relegated to superstitious people of the past. What do they know?
I know.
We're smarter now.
But this is stuff that you saw.
Yeah.
And you witnessed the Venus thing, presumably in your own, you said in your own mind. But then the people walking by was outside of that. The dice was outside of that.
Yeah.
Like,
there's actual physical.
What do you call this? How do you compartmentalize it, or what do you label it?
I just say, I had a look, and I'll tell you about this. A lot of people, when they have experiences outside their reality, this isn't stuff they learned in school. That's stuff that they innately believe is reality. When something happens outside of that, they often get totally screwed up. because they think, and I've had people tell me about these, they think they are insane. They think even if they are all right, if they tell anybody, they'll think they're nuts. They're afraid they're going to get locked up. They're afraid they're going to lose their credibility in whatever job or position they're in if people find out they saw this. It messes people up because you only got two options.
Yeah.
You got your reality and things that don't fit. I experienced that with gender and sexuality and stuff. There was a reality and my experiences didn't fit. So I finally, on this, because of this conglomeration of stuff, gave up on the reality and accepted the experiences because they're too unlikely to be accidental.
Right.
So I was kind of free. Now, in that, I'm not going to believe every bozo thing that I hear. Things on TV, oh, we caught a ghost in a cheesecloth. I don't know if any of that's real or not. I'm not going to believe any crap old lies.
But you also wouldn't discount it.
I wouldn't totally discount anything.
Right. So is the idea then that there's not necessarily a label for your experiences other than to say that, reality is not what we think it is all the time? Is that the idea?
I would say so. Here's how this cultural reality thing is really powerful. It's our innate feeling for reality, and it's imbued in us. Let's say somebody actually set up a laboratory experiment and proved telepathy. There's reason that's hard to prove because it usually happens incidentally, not under someone's control. So it's hard to set up. But let's say they could. And they actually witness it, documented who's going to publish it. Because nobody will publish it because it'll ruin their credibility because it's not true. This happened a year ago with UFOs. Do you know what happened?
No.
They started saying they were covering up all these UFO sightings because the people who saw it were afraid to report it. Because their jobs at stake. They're a jet pilot. They're an airline pilot. They're some high. In other words, their credible person is afraid of losing his credibility for reporting.
Meaning, right? Because of the cultural environment.
Yep.
It's not you can't do it without great risk.
That's right.
I got you.
Now let's say you're a nobody. You can go to the National Enquirer. It'll write it, and you're a nobody, and nobody believes it.
Right.
So it's a lockout.
Right. In other words, yes, I see the point there.
Yeah.
Right. So does that mean that you believe in UFOs?
Oh, no, but I do believe we were repressing the sightings. So whatever they are, even if they're a psychological phenomenon, we've been ignoring all of the evidence. We should find out what it is. Maybe they're not real. Maybe they're aliens projecting a mental image. I don't know.
See. This is the only thing I'll say about UFOs, because I'm open to the idea that there's life on other planets, just because the universe is so vast. There's so many inhabitable planets just within our known universe. So to me, again, I go back to probability and I say, okay, the probability that this has happened somewhere else is fine. But on the UFOs thing here on Earth, the only thing that I can say, I'm not saying that they are or are not. The only thing that I will say is if they are coming, the very first thing they do is zap the whole Earth with some mechanism that creates only blurry black and white video. And then from then on,
there's one. It was,
I'm just saying, like,
the image wasn't real clear, but they also had a radar track on it and personal sightings of it. I mean, it's the fact that it's been repressed. Okay. No one was reporting these things. It's like no one is admitting to being gay if they could lose their job.
Do you expect on UFOs that at some point, though, given the fact that we have everybody and their brother has high-resolution cell phones with color imaging, that there will be forthcoming images?
There could be.
I mean, because to me, now that the whole Earth is, ready for video.
Let's say you had a beautiful image. You could have an image of a flying saucer landing on the White House lawn on the 4th of July at noon, and the guy's coming out and waving hello, and it still wouldn't be credible because we can generate that with CGI now.
Yeah, I think if there was enough eyewitness testimony, maybe. But
you would
right,
think so.
It would be tough. What do you think about ghosts? Are those real?
Yeah, probably. In other words, I don't think of myself as, what do they say? I'm not a person having a spiritual experience. I'm a spirit having a personal experience. I don't think of myself as physical, because inside is just something that's there.
So are hauntings to you something that happens?
That could happen.
Okay.
That seems actually probable. See, once you go into this area and say, like you say, probability. If we have if we can go from one lifetime to another, if there's something in us that's more than what we understand is physical.
You're a very interesting person to interview on this, because I know you have a high degree of science and engineering background, and are quite the rationalist and reasonable thinker. So you think that when a person dies, say they're buried or cremated or buried, they're not just worm food. There's something else that happens.
That survives it. That's not physical.
You're saying some energy's coming out and doing something.
No, I'm not sure about this.
But you're open to it.
I'm certainly. It's like a 50-50 at least.
Okay.
I don't know. Or, I can tell you my stories of why I believe in certain things.
Well, you've given us a number of real life encounters that are awfully interesting.
If somebody says, well, I believe that the God is the God in the Bible, well, I don't know what experiences they had. Maybe they talk to that God in the Bible and it gives them lottery numbers and they keep winning. I don't know.
Right.
Some of them may have damn good reasons.
Well, given your own experience, right, if you ran into that gal again and she was going to put some spell on a house to make everybody smile as they walk by, you'd believe her.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've seen it.
Oh, well, here's the thing. Reason I broke up with her, so to speak. The next month or two, she wanted to do an invocation of Mars. No fucking way I'm going to do that. Venus almost did me in. No way I'm doing Mars. And she was pissed at me for not wanting to go forward with this. Because there's even more powerful ones than that, invoking Jupiter and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of pulled the plug on that. And I don't know. I actually found her on Facebook once. And there she is. My age now. Her picture is scary to look at.
Interesting.
Just to look at that picture scared the shit out of me. What kind of power does she have now, knowing these things are real?
So given your experience with that, is it safe to assume you think that not all, but at least there's some psychic ability or psychics exist?
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, the thing is, most of this stuff, like the mother who knew about her daughter getting hurt, is not something people can do. Okay, do that. It's something that just happens. Although I saw one demonstration of somebody obviously did something. Solstice parade. Santa Barbara has solstice parade every summer on the summer solstice. It's all drumming and you can't have any speech or written stuff in the parade. Mm-hmm. And it's coming down State Street to Cabrillo Boulevard, and it's a bright, hot, sunny day. Me and my friend Eric are just south of the Cabrillo Boulevard where it starts, and we're trying to get in the shade, having some ice cream. So this boom, 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 they're coming down the street. All of a sudden, they get to the street, Cabrillo Boulevard, and all the drumming stops. And they're holding this huge thing full of helium balloons in a giant net, okay? And so now they've officially stopped.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I see the palm trees starting to wave a little. Within 30 seconds, the palm trees are ripping back and forth like a windstorm. And right at that time, at the crack of noon, they release it, and these balloons do not go straight up. They come swirling down the street we're standing on, sideways, and in between the buildings and all. And then that goes on. And a minute later, the wind dies away, the drumming starts, and the parade starts heading down State Street. There is a thing that I've read about, and I haven't known it, but I've read about in witchcraft, in Wicca, called calling up the wind. It's one of the magical things that's common for witches. That was calling up the wind. What else can you say on a bright, sunny day at exactly the time that they were going to release the balloons? This freak wind comes up like 40, 50 miles an hour wind.
Can I ask you, sort of like in closing, unless you have more to talk?
No, let's...
but in closing, I want to ask you, so with these phenomena that happen, or these experiences that you've had, do you find them mostly positive, or are they off-putting, or how do you feel about them?
Well,
like, how they changed your life, or what do you think?
They were off-putting when I couldn't accept them, because they conflicted with my view of reality, so they were really annoying. Yeah. And although my own piled up to the point where it was beyond
undeniable.
Annoying, And then I made a breakthrough one time, and it says shit. And I learned I had to give up that view of reality, that there was more going on than I thought was there. That's all. I would just say more. From there you can theorize about where it all goes, but at least I know it's more. And so now, nothing, I don't care. And somebody may have good reasons for believing in something, aliens from Jupiter or something, but maybe in their experience they've got some reason to believe it, or maybe they're just totally nuts.
So it seems like it's made you a little more, I mean, dare I say, enlightened and tolerant.
Although it's not done as an ethical thing. Oh, we should be more tolerant.
No, but I'm just saying, but by its very nature.
By its very nature, my reality doesn't have any like cap on it.
Wow.
This one lady came up at one of the meetings one time and told me something I'd never heard before, and I'm trying to understand what she told me. But she was talked to me because it was something she couldn't explain to anybody, some experience she had.
I'm going to ask the question in one other way, just to put a pin on, and then we'll be done. But
Sure.
So, did you describe these as a net positive or a net negative in your life?
Oh, well, it's like those seminars I did. They were net positive, even though they were brutal at the time.
I see. Okay.
They were breakthroughs, and even though it was hardcore to do them, but that's the same way. I finally break through, and now the world seems fine to me. Even if I'm totally wrong about this, I'm still fine.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks real to me. This looks real to me. So, okay, it's all the same. It looks real.
Sounds like a net positive to me.
Yeah.
Thanks for the very interesting interview, Luhan.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.